All right. Let's just do a couple things here. Got to click live in a couple places. All right, Ben, we are ready to start. Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. As always, I'm Nick Barker with Accuplan Benefit Services, and we are excited to have you guys here so that we can talk about another super insightful way to make money with your retirement accounts. Today we're talking about passive income strategies with your self-directed IRA. So if you've ever thought, how can I make how can I make my retirement account work for me, especially while I'm asleep, or, with minimal effort from your end, that's what we're talking about today. You're in the right place. So, as usual, joining me today is our trusted resident expert here, Ben Barker, who knows everything about self-directed IRAs. He's going to be answering our questions, breaking things down for us in a way that's clear, practical, and hopefully at the end of the day, actionable for you guys. Ben, thank you for being here.
Thanks. Yeah, it's good to be here.
I was also going to say, you have so much expertise and knowledge. I mean, you've been doing self-directed IRAs for how long now?
Over 20 years, 2002, 23
Okay.
years. So for a long time.
Yeah, exactly. So we are super glad that you're here to talk with us and break things down for us today. So thank you again.
Thank you.
Okay, before we dive into the different strategies, let's talk a little bit about why passive income matters, especially in retirement. Today, the traditional retirement model is to build a big nest egg and draw it down over time. But with passive income, your investments continue to generate steady cash flow, allowing you to, one, reduce the need to sell assets in a down market, increase your financial flexibility, and potentially even retire earlier if you structure things right. Ben, can you talk a little bit why passive income is especially powerful inside of a self-directed IRA?
Yeah. So you mentioned why passive investments are good. I mean, you don't have to do anything to generate the income. You could be sleeping and making money. And so
Yeah.
passive investments are always great. And inside of an IRA, they're even better because all of the income is tax deferred. When most people think of passive income, though, they're thinking of stocks, bonds, and mutual funds. So you've got an IRA account, you're investing in stock in Walmart, you're making money if Walmart makes money. But with a self-directed IRA, there are more flexibility and more investment options than just stocks, bonds, those types of investment vehicles. You can do a lot of vehicles that we're going to be talking about today. The point being, the advantage being that all of it is in an IRA and all of the income, all of the gain is tax deferred.
Awesome. Okay, so with that being said, there might be, as we go through either some of these strategies or just as we're talking about self-directed IRAs, if there's any questions that come up that any of you may have, feel free to throw them in. A lot of times we like to try to get to them in real time if possible, but at the end of this as well, we will have a Q&A section for any questions. Even if they're questions that are pertaining to just self-directed IRAs and not specifically off of what we're talking about today, shoot those away at us and we will get to those as well. Okay, so let's jump into our first strategy that has become really popular over the past few years. We're talking about private lending. Ben, tell us about private lending and how that can help in a self-directed IRA.
Yes, there are a couple different private lending options that you can consider. But basically, what you're doing is you're becoming the bank. You're putting the money in your hands and you're able to control a lot more with private lending than you would in traditional lending. The good thing with private lending is you set the terms. So let's say, for example, a person wants to buy a piece of property, but they need to fix it up. They don't have enough money to fix it up. you can come in and you can be the bank and loan them money. Most interest rates on private lending is between 8 to 12%. Usually gets paid out back between 6 to 12 months. So it's a high interest rate, and it's not a long term. And so you're not worried about, is the person going to be paying me for the next 10 years? It's usually a short term. So you're deciding on the interest rate, you're deciding on the terms and conditions, and all of that. So to give you a real life example, let's just say that a client wanted to someone needed $100,000 to fix and flip a house. So someone's bought a property, but they need $100,000 to fix it up, and then they're going to flip it. You could come in and you could secure a note with that individual. You could charge them a 10% interest rate for the entire, let's say it's going to be a year term. At the end of the year, you'll get $10,000 in interest plus the original $100,000 back. So the gain of $10,000 is all tax deferred. Now, if this was a Roth IRA, it would all be tax free. So there's a lot of powerful effects in having a self-directed IRA invest in private lending. Now, we just talked about real estate, but this could be businesses as well. Someone wants to come in and need some startup capital for a business. You could be the bank for that business as well and provide the funds to the startup company as well.
Yeah, I think that's pretty cool. I mean, unlike stocks, bonds, the exact terms here. We're talking, like you mentioned, you could set it for a year, you could set it for 6 months, but also the interest rate. So, with stocks, especially today, it's like, holy cow, we've seen a lot of drop in the stock market the past few weeks. And with this, it's much more, what you're going to get. You put 10% down, that's what you get. Of course, there's still some risk there, but it makes it much more predictable and relatively a passive stream of income. So pretty cool. Okay, let's talk about another strategy or passive income source, which is a very big one, very classic. We're talking rental real estate. So Ben, tell us about real estate and how that would work.
When you look at the self-directed IRA market, real estate has been among the most popular. With our customers, it's probably 60, 70% of our customers all have real estate related products inside their IRA account. There are great things, great benefits with real estate. You can invest in a lot of different investment options: single family homes, duplexes, apartment complex, vacation rentals, commercial real estate, land can all go into a self-directed IRA. The advantages are many. You mentioned one. You know what you're going to get with the stock market and everything going down, fluctuations in the stock market because of tariffs, whatever else news that are coming on. It's not going to be affected as much with real estate. And so the process would be, you would set up a self-directed IRA account with us. You would transfer your funds to us, and then you would use those funds to invest in real estate. If you invested in a single family home, you would find a renter and they would start renting that property for you. So to give you an example, I had a customer that invested in a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house. They bought it for $180,000. After all expenses, management fees, taxes, insurance, they netted $1,100 a month. If you multiply $1,100 by 12 months, you're going to get around $13,000. I think $1,100 is pretty low now. You could probably get roughly $2,000 for some of these houses. So you could get between $10,000 to $20,000 of rental income. And again, that rental income is all tax deferred, and you didn't do anything to generate that income other than buy the property. The other advantage is, if you bought a rental property and it goes up in value, all of the capital gains is also tax deferred. So if you decide to sell that $180,000 property in 3 years for $300,000, that $120,000 gain is tax deferred.
Yeah. So, I mean, you get all the benefits of the retirement account, which you're talking about there, the tax deferred and all that. But at the end of the day, it's hands off. You don't have to do that much. I will say, though, one thing that maybe we haven't mentioned here is there are, of course, rules that you'll need to follow while you're investing in these types of assets, specifically say with real estate, there's certain things you can and cannot do because it's in an IRA that if it wasn't in your IRA, you would be able to do. We're not going to go over those rules today, but if there's any questions about what you can or can't do, we have all those answers. So either one, ask us those questions, or two, contact us here. Let me throw this up here. Ben's contact information. Anytime you're curious about, a specific asset, what you can or can't do, shoot us a call, an email, whatever it is. Even check our website. We talk about a lot of the rules and things you can and can't do. So I just wanted to throw that out there. But let's move on to the next strategy that really is also a pretty interesting one. We're talking notes and deeds. It's really a close cousin, if you will, to private lending, but it is slightly different. Ben, give us your insights on that.
Yeah, when we're talking about trust deeds and notes, we're talking about existing notes, existing mortgages. I don't know if you've had this experience, but for me, I got a mortgage on my house, and a couple of years later, the person I got the mortgage from, they sold that note to another company. So it's very common for notes to be sold to bundle notes together and to sell those to other people. And you can do that through an IRA account. So if there was a performing note, someone had a note on a piece of property and they just wanted to get out of the note for whatever reason, your IRA is able to use that and buy those notes. The good thing about buying these notes is in most cases, they are secured by a piece of property. So anything goes wrong with the property, you can you get the property back. Some people will come to me and they'll say, well, I have an existing note on a property and I want to terminate the existing note and I want to have my IRA become the new lender. And the answer to that question is, can I do that? Yes, under certain circumstances. If this was my property, I owned it, my note, probably not. But let's say, Nick, you had a property, you had a note, and you're like, the bank's charging me 10%. I want to get down to 7%. Would you come in and take over my note, give me a new note? So you could definitely do that inside of an IRA account. An example with this would be, let's say you want to purchase a performing note on a residential property. The borrower is paying $800 a month, and it's a 15-year note. You could use your IRA funds and take over that note. The note payments would go to your IRA account, and the note would still be secured by a piece of property. Besides performing notes, there's also non-performing notes. There are notes out there that don't really get paid back routinely, and your IRA can buy non-performing notes if you choose to do that. There obviously is more risk because there's a chance that the person defaults, but usually you can get non-performing notes at a discount, and occasionally you'll get a home run where maybe it's a non-performing note that's backed by a piece of property and you could get the property, take over the property. Some people just don't want to deal with the headache of, I don't want to have to foreclose and take over the property, but there are some potentials in actually getting non-performing notes as well.
That's cool. I mean, I have heard specifically about, notes and trust deeds, a pretty cheesy joke, but it's basically this. Basically, if you're wanting maybe mortgage notes or trust deeds, they are a great option for anyone looking for mailbox money, but who doesn't want to deal with toilets, tenants, or turnover. So,
Yeah.
I mean, kind of accurate in the sense that, it's kind of it's more of the paper asset way of doing it. But to some, that's exactly what they're looking for. So pretty cool. Another option that you can use as well to have passive income in your self-directed IRA. Now, we've talked about 3 strategies. I will throw out, obviously, these are just the 3 that we are talking about right now. You could go onto our website at accuplan.net. You could invest in gold. You could invest in crypto. And in a roundabout way, that can kind of be passive income as well, right? Because crypto and gold are constantly changing their value, especially if you're buying low. Yes, it means you need to sell it. So it is a little bit different. But I just wanted to throw out there that with Accuplan, we have a really cool opportunity where when you open up an account, you can write in there, literally like day trade crypto straight through your retirement accounts. Um, so I just wanted to throw that out there. But those are the three strategies we've been talking about. So to recap, we're talking three powerful passive income strategies that you can use and tap into with your self-directed IRA. Private lending, or becoming the bank. Rental real estate, which obviously would give you a monthly cash flow. And then notes and trust deeds, which is buying the existing debt instruments. So those are the three strategies we've gone over. Ben, when someone's trying to decide like, oh, I like those three strategies, what should I start with? What should they consider?
Good question. I always tell people first, if you don't have the expertise, knowledge, contact your financial advisor, your CPA, your attorney. I am not a CPA. I'm not a registered financial advisor. I'm not an attorney. So obviously all the things that I'm going to tell you are basically my own experience, my own knowledge. But there are a couple of things you need to consider. First is your risk tolerance. Are you risk averse? And if you're risk averse and you don't want to have a lot of risk, then you don't want to buy a non-performing note. You don't want to invest with a startup company. But investing in a piece of property or investing a note in a piece of property are very low risk. If you have a high risk tolerance, then you might go for something that's a little bit more bang for the buck, but also more risk, like cryptocurrency, more risk than say gold and silver. The next thing you look at is your time horizon, your age. When you get to when you're retirement age, you want to look at passive investments that have dividend income. So rental property that have rents, great. Businesses that have dividend payments are great, but you want to also have liquidity. If there comes to a point where you're turned 72 and you need to start taking distributions from your IRA account, do you have enough liquidity to take your distributions? Notes typically are not difficult, but say a piece of property, is it making enough rental income to pay your distributions? Need to be considered. And obviously, the third thing is just go with what you're good at and what you're interested in. If you like real estate and you have expertise in real estate, go with real estate. If you like startup companies and you have some experience and knowledge in startup companies, then do some notes with some startup companies. And so do those things that you like, but also do those things that you know are going to perform and that you have the expertise to make the right decision.
Yeah, I think that's perfect. Okay. Now's the time where we want to open up the floor to anybody to ask any questions. So if you have a question and you haven't asked it, feel free to throw it in there. We'll get to any questions. And if there are no questions, we have a couple of questions that we hear quite a bit. So we'll throw those in there as well. So for the first question, we have, can I manage my own rental property in a self-directed IRA?
Good question. You briefly mentioned self-dealing. There can't be self-dealing in an IRA account. So managing rental properties, yes and no. Can you find a property that you're interested in? Can you find a renter and get a renter in there? Great. Can you collect the rent payments? No, they have to go to the IRA account. Can you pay for the expenses personally? No, the IRA has to pay for all expenses. So you're kind of managing it in the sense that you can find the property that you're interested in, you can find the tenant, you can help close on the property, but you don't want to do any of the work yourself. You don't want to come in and repaint, recarpet, do the flooring. Those are all considered prohibited transactions.
Yeah, good answer. I mean, I think at the end of the day too, I think it seems like, well, all the rental income, I'll just put it into my bank account. It's got to go to the IRA. So specific questions or specific rules there that you got to watch out for. But at the end of the day, once you've got it set up, it's really easy to follow. Okay, another question we have is, what kind of due diligence should I do before making a private loan?
Obviously, you need to do your homework. You need to know who you're investing with. So if you're investing with a friend that you trust and you know that they've made payments in the past, those are things that are going to be beneficial to you. If you could go and look them up, look at their credit history, look at businesses that they own, Google them, whatever you need to, you can do that. If you don't have that knowledge and expertise, you want to hire a CPA, a financial advisor, an attorney to go in and do some of that due diligence. Those are going to be both beneficial. But it's going to come down to, in my opinion, the type of property, the type of assets that I like to invest in are going to be backed with collateral. So if you're buying a piece of property, someone's buying a property and you're loaning them money and you get the property as collateral, then the risks are fairly low. But you want to check out the property. Is it a good property? What happens if the property gets foreclosed? Can you sell it for a higher value than what you gave the note? So those are some of the things you're going to want to consider when you're investing with specifically real estate.
Yeah. Well, and one thing I'd say too is, I mean, at the end of the day, the the reality of it is the more due diligence you do, typically the better that asset's going to perform. I mean, and that's not to say if you don't do much due diligence, you're not going to have success, or if you do a lot of due diligence, it won't be a failure. Obviously, those things can still occur, but more often than not, the more involved you are, the more due diligence you do to make sure it's in your expertise or whether, you feel good about it, the more likelihood of success there. So my suggestion is always do enough due diligence, do enough. You got to do some, and you got to make sure that you're involved there. So never want to be like, oh, I guess I should have checked something, right? So,
Yeah,
okay. Another question we have
one next thing I was
is,
going to
yeah, go ahead.
mention, Nick, is there are lending clubs and there are websites that you can go to. Like, so if you don't know anything about lending, but you're like, I know there's a lending club that lends it and they do a lot of the due diligence and vetting.
Yeah.
You could get partnered up with some of these lending companies, and they just said, we need money. We'll provide the due diligence. You provide the money.
Yeah, exactly. I think, yeah, that's perfect. Okay, another question is what happens to the rental income or interest payments? I kind of talked about that a little.
Yeah, basically all of the rental income, all the interest payments need to go back into the IRA. They cannot go to your personal bank account. If they go to your personal bank account, it's disqualified and it's a distribution. So if you needed some of the money, like let's say you wanted to go on a trip and you needed $5,000, the rental income would come to us, the custodian, and then you could take a withdrawal distribution from the IRA account and you could have those funds. But they cannot come to you first. They've got to go to the IRA.
Great. Okay. Again, those are the 3 questions that we've gone over. I don't see any more questions or comments. But I will say we have done a handful of lives, at least 6 other lives like this. They are sitting on our YouTube account. If you're curious, some of those lives are much more in depth about certain asset types like real estate or crypto. And some of them are a little bit more general about many different topics. But we have a lot of content. We have a lot of information for any of you that have questions that weren't answered today. But minimally, contact Ben. I want to say thanks everybody for joining us. That's basically what we have for today. We hope that you now see the powerful and accessible passive income strategies that can be used inside of a self-directed IRA. That's what we do here at Accuplan. We help you with your retirement accounts to invest how you want to invest. We just make sure that you're doing it in all the specific proper ways with the right rules, and that you're not making any mistakes. But reach out to Ben, and if you have any questions, contact him either through I think I listed it there. Yeah, his phone number or his email. If not, shoot us. Jump onto our site, check out our content. And other than that, I think, that's about it. We'll see you next time. As always, generally we do a live once a month, if not once a month. Sometimes we skip a month. So look out for that. Ben, as always, we appreciate your expertise. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you. Thanks.
Okay. Everybody, have a great day.